By the time Jamal Carter saw the clip, it had already crossed 2 million views on TikTok and started spreading across YouTube reaction channels. His girlfriend, Aaliyah Brooks, sat in a bright Atlanta salon chair, laughing so hard she could barely breathe while telling the camera he was too soft to leave, too boring to cheat on, and too pathetic to replace. The comments loved her. They turned him into a punchline before sunrise. But what nobody online knew, what nobody could have guessed, was that Jamal had found something in her car 3 hours earlier that made her viral joke sound less like confidence and more like panic. If you love stories where the quiet person in the room ends up flipping everything, subscribe now, because this one keeps getting worse in ways that feel almost unreal. I mean that. Every time Jamal thought he had found the ugliest part, another lie opened behind it like a second locked door. At first, even he thought this was just another cruel joke from a girlfriend who loved attention too much. Then he replayed the clip and noticed a gold parking tag swinging from a rearview mirror, one that absolutely had not been there the night before. That tiny detail changed the direction of his entire week. Jamal was 29, a physical therapist from Decatur, Georgia, the kind of man who ironed church shirts on Saturday night and tracked every bill in a color-coded spreadsheet. Aaliyah, 27, worked in brand partnerships for a beauty startup and moved through rooms like they were built for her entrance. She was funny, magnetic, impossible to ignore, and mean in ways people mistook for confidence. Their friends called him balanced. Jamal's mother called him patient. His cousin Dre called him blind. Because for nearly a year, Aaliyah had turned little humiliations into entertainment, and Jamal kept telling himself love was supposed to survive teasing. At birthday dinners, she joked about his little salary, even though he had paid half her rent when commission checks ran late. At brunch, she rolled her eyes when he mentioned buying a townhouse and called him LinkedIn in human form. Once at a rooftop party in Midtown, she laughed with her friends about how Jamal scheduled oil changes 3 weeks early, then leaned over and said, "See, he's dependable." That's code for boring. Everybody laughed, including him, because that was easier than making the table tense. Looking back, Jamal would say that was her talent. She made disrespect look polished enough that noticing it felt rude. The night everything started breaking open, Aaliyah told Jamal she was meeting coworkers for drinks near Ponce City Market. He believed her until the next morning, when he borrowed her car to pick up pastries for his aunt's recovery brunch and saw a valet receipt tucked between the center console and passenger seat. The receipt was from the Waverly Hotel in Buckhead, time-stamped 12:43 a.m., 2 guests, overnight parking. Jamal stared at it, so long the bakery line moved around him. Then he found a phone charger he had never seen before, an expensive braided cord attached to nothing he recognized. That was the first real crack. Most people would have confronted her immediately. Jamal almost did. He even typed, "Why were you at a hotel?" then deleted it before sending. Something about the cruelty in her viral video later that same afternoon made the receipt feel connected to something larger, more planned. He replayed her words, trying to hear anger, but all he heard was performance. She was too polished, too ready, too certain the internet would take her side. That was when a thought hit him so sharply he had to sit down on his front steps. Maybe the video was not random. Maybe she was trying to get ahead of a story he had not uncovered yet. Remember that, because it matters later. That same evening, Aaliyah came home smiling, kissed the air near his cheek, and asked whether he had seen her little post. Jamal said yes. She watched him carefully, almost disappointed that he did not argue. Then she smirked and said the brand loved her authenticity, that controversy drove traffic, and that people online connect with messy truth. Messy truth. Those 2 words stayed with him. When she went to shower, her smartwatch lit up on the dresser. A message preview flashed from someone saved only as V. Did he buy it? Then another came right after. You better keep him calm until Friday. At this point, what would you do? Explode, leave, or stay quiet long enough to see the full shape of the lie? Jamal chose silence, and that decision is the only reason the ending landed the way it did. Instead of confronting her, he photographed the receipt, the charger, and the message preview with his old backup phone. The next morning he called in late, sat at the kitchen table, and opened their shared apps one by one. Nothing dramatic appeared at first. Then he checked ride history. 3 rides in the last month had ended at the same Buckhead condo tower she always claimed was a co-working space. The condo tower belonged to Vernon Tate, a local entrepreneur who styled himself online as a luxury real estate investor. Jamal only learned that because Aaliyah had once mocked Vernon's fake rich videos over dinner, calling him the king of borrowed marble countertops. Now his address appeared again and again in her ride history, always during work lunches, networking nights, or girls' evenings. Jamal searched Vernon's socials and nearly dropped his phone when he saw the same gold parking tag hanging in the background of one of Vernon's car selfies. Not a similar one. The exact same custom tag from Aaliyah's viral clip. Suddenly, the clip felt less accidental and more like evidence she had slipped. But that still was not the worst discovery. 2 days later, Jamal's younger sister Imani called sounding strange and asked whether he and Aaliyah were okay. When he asked why, she hesitated and admitted that Aaliyah had been posting private arguments on a close friend's story for weeks, framing Jamal as controlling, insecure, and emotionally exhausting. Imani sent screenshots. In one, Aaliyah zoomed in on his budgeting notes and joked, "This man tracks paper towels like a parole officer." In another, she claimed he checked her location because he didn't trust women who had options. Jamal sat perfectly still. She was weaponizing his stability into content that looked suspiciously like abuse. If you're still here, subscribe, because this is where the story flips from cheating to strategy. Jamal realized Aaliyah was not just betraying him romantically. She was building a public record against him, softly, playfully, one clipped joke at a time, so that if he ever spoke up, he would already look obsessive and bitter. That explained the salon video. That explained the timing. And it explained why she had seemed disappointed by his calm reaction. She wanted him loud. She wanted screenshots of anger. She wanted one ugly text to validate the image she had been curating for months. Instead, Jamal started collecting quietly, carefully, almost like an investigator. By Thursday, another layer surfaced. Jamal worked with an older patient named Mrs. Evelyn Price, whose granddaughter happened to intern at Aaliyah's startup. Jamal never mentioned his relationship trouble, but Mrs. Price did what church elders do best and volunteer information nobody asked for. "That pretty girlfriend of yours," she said, "didn't she host some campaign dinner downtown with that tall man from the condo magazine?" Jamal asked her to repeat it. Later, the granddaughter messaged him a flyer for a private creator dinner Aaliyah had told Jamal was a women-only work retreat. Vernon Tate's name sat right there on the host line. Another lie. Clean. Deliberate. Easy to prove. He told only one person the full truth. His cousin Andre, who everyone called Dre, a barber with a loud laugh and a surprisingly surgical mind. Dre wanted to drive straight to Vernon's condo, and Jamal said no. Dre wanted to flood Aaliyah's comment section, and Jamal said no again. "Then what exactly are you doing?" Dre asked. Jamal looked at the screenshots spread across his dining table and said, "I'm waiting for her to finish." Dre stared, then slowly smiled, because he understood something important before Jamal said it out loud. Aaliyah's ego was already doing half the work. Jamal just needed patience, timing, and the right spotlight. Friday came with another insult. Aaliyah posted a follow-up video saying, "Ladies, stop dating men you have to mother," while applying lip gloss and laughing at comments calling Jamal Budget Batman. That clip went even bigger than the first one. Reaction pages reposted it. A local podcaster guessed Jamal was secretly cheating and projecting. A gossip page claimed Aaliyah had escaped a controlling live-in boyfriend. Jamal's phone filled with texts from people who had not asked him for a side once. Some sounded concerned. Most sounded curious. A few sounded entertained. That was when Jamal understood how expensive silence feels before it finally starts paying you back. Then, late Friday night, Aaliyah made the mistake she could not take back. She came home irritated, dropped her purse, and muttered, "He's being so dramatic," not realizing Jamal stood in the kitchen. Jamal asked who. She recovered too fast, smiled, and said she meant her manager. But 3 minutes later, while she was on the balcony taking a call, Jamal heard enough through the cracked door to confirm everything. She whispered that the apartment situation would be handled soon, that Jamal was too weak to notice, and that after the launch event on Sunday, she would finally be out. Jamal did not interrupt. He recorded the audio. Here is where the story gets almost ridiculous. The launch event she mentioned was for a beauty campaign Aaliyah had been bragging about for months, a live-streamed rooftop activation at the Claremont Hotel featuring influencers, founders, and local media. Jamal had helped her rehearse her talking points in their living room. Jamal had even designed the slide deck for her internal pitch because she said nobody at work understood layout the way he did. He had built pieces of the same event she planned to use as her victory lap. And somehow that betrayal hit harder than the hotel receipt. Cheating was ugly. Using his labor to decorate the lie felt colder. Saturday morning, Jamal checked the apartment lease. Both names were on it, but the utilities, Wi-Fi, parking account, and renter records were all under his. Worse for Aaliyah, the building had strict guest and filming policies. Repeated overnight visitors who were not registered could trigger penalties. Public content shoots in common areas without approval could too. Jamal emailed management, not angrily, not dramatically, asking for visitor logs, package camera confirmations, and policy copies because he was reviewing household compliance. That wording mattered. So did the concierge's quick reply. Vernon Tate had signed in 6 separate late-night visits across 2 months. 6 separate late-night visits. If you think that's the worst thing she did, it isn't. While searching their tax folder for utility statements, Jamal noticed one of his old business cards missing from a stack. That reminded him of a weird charge from 2 weeks earlier on the LLC card he used for mobile rehab consulting. The charge was for floral decor from an event vendor. Jamal contacted the vendor and learned the order had been placed using his invoice profile and one of his dormant work email aliases. Delivery address? Vernon Tate's condo for a private dinner. Aaliyah had not only cheated, she had used Jamal's business identity to help stage the affair. That changed everything. Up to then, Jamal only wanted to protect himself and leave cleanly. But identity misuse, public slander, and lease violations turned this from heartbreak into a case file. Dre connected him with a lawyer named Camille Sutton, sharp as broken glass and twice as controlled. Camille reviewed the screenshots, receipts, visitor logs, vendor records, and the balcony audio clip, then told Jamal something that made him exhale for the first time all week. "Do not rant," she said. "Do not threaten. Do not improvise. Facts are meaner than anger." Jamal almost laughed because that sentence felt truer than anything he had heard since the first video went viral. Camille helped him prepare in 3 lanes at once. First, he separated finances, changed passwords, froze stored payment methods, and secured every account linked to shared devices. Second, he documented every online post where Aaliyah implied coercion, manipulation, or controlling behavior. Third, he built a timeline so clean even strangers could understand it in under 2 minutes. Hotel receipt, ride logs, condo address, visitor records, misuse of his business profile, and her own audio admitting she planned to move out after the launch. Jamal still did not post. He just organized. Quietly. Neatly. Aaliyah noticed nothing because arrogance is loud and detail is silent. Sunday arrived hot and bright, the kind of Atlanta afternoon that makes rooftop pools look richer than they are. Aaliyah left early in a white dress, telling Jamal she hoped he was mature enough not to do anything embarrassing online. He nodded and said he was going to his mother's. That part was true. His mother, Claudette, handed him sweet tea, looked at his face once, and said, "Baby, don't lose your soul trying to win." Jamal told her he would not. Then he opened his laptop at her kitchen table and scheduled 3 things for 7:10 p.m., the exact minute Aaliyah would begin her public panel on authenticity, trust, and audience connection. The first scheduled item was an email from Camille to Aaliyah's HR department, legal team, an event organizer containing a concise evidence packet documenting defamation-adjacent claims, misuse of Jamal's business identity, and audio showing she planned to exploit a public campaign while hiding an undisclosed relationship with a feature host. The second was a formal complaint to building management regarding repeated unauthorized overnight guests and commercial filming violations. The third was the calmest post Jamal had ever written. No insults, no cursing, no threats, just one caption. Since my name became content, here are the facts in order. Then the receipts followed, slide by slide, date by date. At 7:13 p.m., while Aaliyah sat under string lights telling a crowd that real transparency creates real community, her phone began vibrating against the water glass beside her. According to 3 people who later sent Jamal clips, she ignored it twice, smiled through it once, then went pale on the 4th buzz. Vernon, seated 2 stools away as a surprise guest investor, checked his own phone and visibly stiffened. The moderator stumbled over her next introduction. One audience member started whispering. Another looked down, then up, then down again. It was the kind of slow-motion collapse that makes a room feel haunted before anyone says why. And the internet caught up in real time. Jamal's posts spread with a completely different energy than Aaliyah's. Her videos were loud. His was devastatingly plain. The timeline did all the talking. The hotel receipt established opportunity. The ride logs established pattern. The visitor records established repetition. The LLC charge established misuse. The audio clip established intent. Then came the final slide. Screenshots of Aaliyah mocking Jamal's routines, budgeting, and emotional restraint while privately asking him to edit her presentations, cover groceries, and front utility payments during brand delays. No dramatic music. No reaction face. Just order. People who had laughed at him 12 hours earlier started deleting comments and asking why she lied first. This next part still makes Dre laugh because it was so perfectly timed it felt scripted, except it was not. While Jamal's post climbed, the event organizer quietly removed Aaliyah from the panel midway through a Q&A break. Clips later showed her arguing near the bar, pointing at Vernon, then at a woman in a black blazer who was almost certainly from legal. Vernon tried to slip out through the elevator corridor, only to get caught on camera by attendees already refreshing Jamal's thread. Someone shouted, "Wait, that's the condo guy." Another person, "Hold on, I think she said monogram tag." Yeah, that person zoomed in on the gold parking tab for Vernon's car. But the cruelest part was still ahead, and it came from Jamal doing almost nothing at all. Back at the apartment, Aaliyah's digital key stopped working at 8:02 p.m. because Jamal had legally updated resident access through management after filing the compliance complaint and securing account control on his lawyer's advice. Her belongings were not dumped. Nothing was broken. Nothing was trashed. Instead, every item she owned had been folded, boxed, labeled, and placed in a secure storage unit prepaid for 30 days in her name. On top of the first box sat a printed copy of the timeline and one handwritten note. "You were only powerful while people believed you first." Aaliyah called 23 times. Jamal answered none of them. She texted that he was ruining her life. She texted that Vernon had lied to her too. She texted that none of this was supposed to go public like this. That phrase hit Jamal harder than any apology could have because it revealed the whole truth. Public humiliation was acceptable when she controlled it. Exposure felt cruel only when it moved in the other direction. When she finally texted, "Please just talk to me," Jamal replied with exactly one line Camille had approved: "Direct all necessary communication through email. Your property is secured through May 10th. Finality can sound terrifyingly polite. By Monday morning, the beauty startup had placed Aaliyah on leave pending review. The rooftop campaign clips disappeared. Vernon posted a vague statement about private matters being mischaracterized, which only made people repost Jamal's receipts harder. A local business forum connected Vernon's condo to 2 previous influencer messes, and suddenly he was answering questions he never expected from investors. Meanwhile, the original viral salon video stayed up long enough for the comments to turn completely against Aaliyah. Viewers stitched it beside Jamal's timeline, pointing out every lie, every smug pause, every carefully calculated phrase. She had won an audience. She got one. She just lost control of the script. Then came one last discovery, because stories like this always hide a final nerve somewhere. Amani, still furious, sent Jamal an older screen recording from Aaliyah's close friend's archive that she had saved months earlier because it felt off. In the clip, Aaliyah bragged that the easiest men to manipulate were the dependable ones because they think being decent makes them untouchable. She laughed and said, "You embarrass them a little at a time, so they stop trusting their own reaction." Jamal watched it once and had a pause. Not because it shocked him, well, okay, maybe a little, but because it clarified everything. The mockery had always been method, never mood. If you made it this far, subscribe because the ending is quieter than you expect and colder because of it. Jamal never posted again. He did not do interviews. He did not monetize the scandal, even when reaction pages asked. He went back to work, closed on a townhouse in Stone Mountain 3 weeks later, and moved with help from Dre, Claudette, and Imani, who taped over one box and wrote lesson across it. 18 months later, people around Atlanta still reference the timeline guy whenever somebody mocked the wrong quiet man online. The line they remembered was not loud, but lasted. You were only powerful while people believed you first.